Hi, welcome to the Rittner Floral School in Boston, Mass. I'm Dr. Steve Rittner, and it's a pleasure to welcome you into one of our classrooms today. The time of the year, Chinese New Year. I've long said to my classes that floral art is an art form that can be applied to virtually any human experience. And we thought it would be kind of fun today to do a few designs and show you a few ideas for Chinese New Year's. I think you guys will really enjoy it. First of all, I'm starting off with a rather interesting base. This is a base that's kind of sculptural. It has several rings in it. I've got a container placed here, and I'm using some of my black floral foam. And the reason I'm using the black floral foam is because it's an interesting kind of base. When we use it, we really don't have to use much in terms of foliage to cover mechanics. It actually will blend into the background very, very nicely. And I'm going to start by making something, and I'm going to make a very, very simple design. I'm starting using some of my foliage, and I'm going to use some of my baby blue or spiral eucalyptus, and I'm going to take a few pieces and work it in. The advantage, of course, of our baby blue or spiral, it smells amazingly great. And I'm going to take a few pieces and work it into my base. The one thing we do have to be careful about when we're using this particular product is that sometimes it does have a tendency of wiggling and moving around on us. I'm going to mix a few different colors today, and I'm going to stay primarily with my reds and my yellows, or my reds and my golds, as it were. And I think that you'll find that we can come up with something that really looks interesting and nice. I'm going to be keeping the emphasis on this particular design as being something that is relatively quick, easy, and fun to do, which of course, as you realize, is the whole Rittner School approach. Quick, easy, and fun. And I'm deliberately mixing my carnations and also my roses together. And by doing so, you can see we can come up with something rather interesting. And yet, you'll notice I'm keeping it very, very simple. You don't have to use the most complicated combinations or always the most expensive combinations to come up with an interesting effect. And you'll notice, my viewer, by taking a few of my materials here, and I'm making use of the fact that my eucalyptus gives me a nice kind of curve, and it kind of follows the overall shape of the frame, I can come up with something that is really nice indeed, and yet fairly easy. And you can see the way this is developing very, very nicely for me with another rose over here. And then I'm going to work one more carnation coming over to the side. So this is a good way to start. I'm staying with the traditional colors of red and yellow, or red and gold, to come up with an interesting effect. I could add another piece of my eucalyptus here, and I will. I'm going to stick one more little piece of eucalyptus just coming out here. And notice how we've got a very, very nice and a very, very simple design for the Chinese New Year, an interpretation. But there are some other neat things that we can do, and I'd like to share a few ideas with you of different directions you can go in. This was just to get us warmed up. Let's see what other interesting kinds of approaches we could use for Chinese New Year. Now, one of the things that I always found neat about Chinese New Year is the emphasis on the various animals. You know, the year of the pig or the year of the dragon or whatever. The particular container I happen to have here is a little wicker pig. And this is another way that you can incorporate symbols into some of your Chinese New Year type designs. I have a little wicker pig here. It's got a liner in it. I placed a little piece of my black foam again in here. And I'm making use of a very similar kind of palette in terms of our materials. We have our red roses here, here, and here. We've got some of our golden or yellow roses here, here, and here. A lily is a focal point, and I've got some of my Aurelia foliage kind of over here and over here to give a background. These are Midolino sticks in red. I've got some shooting up here, here, and here, and a few loops worked there. Consider this another approach that you could use if you're looking for ideas for Chinese New Year, incorporating the particular animal that is associated with that particular year. And I think that that's something that you may want to consider to add distinctiveness to your Chinese New Year designing. Let me show you another idea, my viewer, that I think you might find kind of neat and kind of interesting as far as Chinese New Year is concerned, because I think that there's just so many different directions you can go in as far as this holiday. Now this one is a little bit more ornate. Again, I'm staying with very, very similar materials in terms of our roses. I do have the addition of several other elements to it. We've got some of our bells of Ireland over here. We have our Aurelia foliage here and here. And then we've got our red roses coming down here, over here, shooting over to here. And then a crisscross of our yellow roses working over here. Once again, I have some of our Midolino sticks in red in curves here and here and here, and some pieces shooting out. But the one thing that you'll notice here that makes this one a little bit distinctive, we've got two different things that I think really add to it as far as Chinese New Year. One is we have Fu, which means luck, and we want, of course, the new year to be a lucky and an auspicious one. So we have the symbols for Fu here. Sometimes these symbols are placed upside down. Luck is already here. But in this particular case, I'm just keeping it pretty much straight here in terms of the symbol of luck. And this gets in the whole idea of calligraphy. Calligraphy, language. Language can say a lot of different things a little bit more precisely. So the incorporation of some sort of calligraphy into, or lettering into your design, is another way that you can enhance it. We also have some tangerines or kumquats here because that is also considered auspicious. It's a symbol of good luck for the year, and we thought it would be kind of fun to work that in. It's interesting how we can do these things. In the Jewish tradition, they often use pomegranates in the Jewish New Year. In this one, kumquats work very, very well as a focal. So the use of language, of lettering, the use of the kumquats, which have a lovely fragrance to them, again adds to a different way of expressing the Chinese New Year. Now let me show you one last example, my viewer, that will give you another kind of take on it that I think you will find kind of interesting. In this particular case, we're going to go stylistically with something a little bit different. I have deliberately, on this one, gone with something that is a little bit more on the contemporary feel stylistically. In other words, when you look at this particular design, it feels more like an open, airy kind of thing, a little bit more branchy stuff, a more open, airy, contemporary kind of feel. Stylistically, we can go in so many different directions. We've got curly willow shooting over here, curly willow shooting over there, some kiwi vines worked in through the center. Again, I'm making use of the black foam here because the black foam doesn't really require much in terms of covering a lily in the center, the yellow rose here, here, and here, the red rose here, 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 and some spray roses that are red coming up there. It gives a very, very pretty effect. Lots of negative space. The use also here of some of our golden yarrow worked through the design gives an interesting effect. This is a very, very contemporary kind of piece that could essentially work just about anywhere. I've stayed with the yellow and the red in terms of the coloration. And of course, to finish our design off, we can accompany it with a cute dragon to again emphasize the concept of the Chinese New Year. So what do you think, my viewer? Quick, easy, and fun. That's the Rittner Floral School way. And I hope that in this brief demonstration, you've got a sense of a few ideas of directions that you can go in through the use of color, through the use of symbol of the year, through calligraphy, through fruit. These kinds of things can be made in many, many different styles, and you really can have some fun when you're celebrating the Chinese New Year. On behalf of all of us here at Rittner's Floral School, I'm Dr. Steve Rittner. We thank you for coming in and visiting us today. Thank you.